Yeah.
That client is still my client today.
Right. Right. Love it.
Right. And
And so what did you do next, Gerald? Like so you land these 2 projects, business is now up and running, right? You got
yep,
your shop, right? The nameplates or whatever over the door, right?
yep.
It's principles of execution now open for business. What do you do next? How do you
So
go
what,
from just getting things started to, really filling the pipeline and generating a lot more revenue?
right. So one of the things that I did is, again, and I think this goes back to the music training, right? Because as a musician, even as a serious professional musician, you know that there's only so much that you know, and if you want to go to the top of your game, you need to find instructors or mentors or coaches or people who are way ahead of you. So one of the guys I had a chance to work with on a project was a guy named Carl Pritchard. He had written about 7 books and was known as the guy for in project management in that area. Mm-hmm. And we became friends. So I called him up and said, hey, Carl, I started my own consulting practice. I got a couple of clients. Here's what I'm doing. Can I come and have lunch with you and just talk it out and say, here, I just want to get some advice from you and let's just, have a chat. Perfect. We met, we had lunch together. And one of the things he said was, first thing you need to do as a thought leader is you got to write a book. He goes, next thing is you got to have a course. And so from that, I wrote a course. And in fact, I ended up getting a certification in what they call portfolio management. So you heard of the PMP certification in project management. Well, there's also something called the PFMP, which is at the portfolio level. So it's like project management program level, portfolio level. And I couldn't find any materials out there. So I wrote a course based on all the things I was bringing to the table. And that became my certification course that I taught, as well as the material that I used to take the certification and pass the certification.
Right.
And so from that, I had been doing some speaking for like the Project Management Institute and other organizations and from Microsoft. And I realized that, I need to keep speaking. But then the music began to kind of keep coming back in because, again, I was still playing music at the same time. And I went to a conference. Again, this is the whole music mentality. I went to a workshop with Willie and Dee Jolly. Willie's one of the top 5 speakers in the world in NSA. He's a Hall of Fame speaker, but he's also a jazz singer. And his wife is a music educator, or not music educator, she's an education major and had a master's in music, had worked for the government. And I spent the weekend with them with a small group, kind of in a mastermind. Mm-hmm. And when I told them about my business and what I was trying to do, she said to me, you know what you do is you really help companies change their culture. And I went, I never thought about it from that angle. And then he said, man, if you take what you're doing with music, because at that time, the song All About That Bass, that was out. And he was like, man, if you take that All About That Bass and put it into a culture is the bass. And I thought, okay, and so those ideas begin to germinate. And so I did research. I started, and I got involved in the speaking business more, and it all morphed to where I ended up writing my first book, Culture is the Bass. And it was about my experience as a classical jazz musician, classically trained, and what I learned through growing up in the arts that has helped me as a business consultant, and how just like in any great song, you always have a great bass line. Well, every great company has a great culture. Mm-hmm. And by doing a lot of research, I read a lot of the Harvard Review articles. I read a number of case studies. I read things from the Wharton School, because I always believed in, again, because of the schools I went to, you always believed in peer-reviewed material. Mm-hmm. So I always went after well-researched, well-branded material where I knew there was a lot of thought leadership put into it. Right. And I developed a 7-step process around how do you develop a culture, but I used it and framed it for helping companies develop a culture that works. And I used it in my consulting with my companies, and it really helped them make a difference.
And Gerald, so you now have that book, which I can see behind you there,